psychoanalysis, though it's endlessly caricatured, is a very deep system of knowledge and practices. And I'm hoping to spend our time today talking about some of its central tenets. And I think the proper place to start, and this is borne out by the name I'm about to invoke, is the fundamental rule of psychoanalysis. So first, just quite broadly, I mean, what is the rule and what is its origin?
Well, the rule is quite simple. I mean, it takes a little while to get the gist of it, but the fundamental rule is simply a rule that the analysans, the people who are in analysis, are asked at the beginning of an analysis to say whatever it is that comes into their mind without any inhibition or holding back or distortion. So that's it. It's very simple. Just in some important sense, it's simply the rule to please speak your mind out loud. Now, that it's quite astonishing what then happens. I mean, but really the analytic situation is, I think, organized and constituted around this rule. That is why Freud came to call it the fundamental rule. There's the definite article, the, and then there's the word fundamental. That's pretty important. I mean, I think I'll just say, I mean, there's a lot to be said about what else goes on in analysis. I don't want to overdo it, but it is worth getting clear on why this is so important. It began with Freud just asking his patients to say what was on their mind, and then got more and more formulated as a rule. But when you think about it, really, I think what Freud hit upon was a kind of different meaning of what it is for us to speak our minds. Because, the familiar sense of speaking your mind is to say what you believe, to say it out loud, say what you believe. And that brings you in to the realm of, what Socrates and Plato and Aristotle called logos. When they said we're rational animals, we are animals who can state our beliefs out loud, and then we can be questioned about them by others. And why do you believe that? And you give reasons back. And if you're truthful and open about what you say, and if you're given the freedom of being in a social environment where you're not, horribly punished for saying what you believe and think, that's, the familiar meaning of speaking your mind. But the fundamental rule is very different because for me, I've used this analogy of the relationship of the Sabbath to the rest of the week, because the fundamental rule says, don't worry about logos right now. I mean, if something comes into your mind that makes no sense to you, or it's embarrassing, or actually gets in the way of the point you're making, I mean, normally we just, we're trained, especially philosophers, we're just trained to just push things out of our minds if they don't fit the argument we're making or the point we're making, or, what we want to say to other people. And the fundamental rule says, take a rest from that. Can you spend 50 minutes of a day not doing that? And the other thing that's so interesting, I think, the analogy of the Sabbath. I mean, we think of the Sabbath as a day of rest, but actually the Sabbath is a day in which you are commanded to rest. It's one of the commandments, honor the Sabbath and make it holy. And the fundamental rule is a rule in the sense that you are being asked not to go along with the normal daily constraints of logos, of arguing and stating your beliefs and stating why you think things, and just say whatever happens to come into your mind, while you're in this analytic hour. Now, it's a fascinating and empirical discovery that basically nobody can do this. I don't think, anybody really knew till you started out that people can't do it. I mean, there are people who can just, there are people who are in various psychological states where they just say out loud whatever isn't coming into their mind. But that isn't following the fundamental rule, because you have to be not just doing it, but following the rule to do it. And it turns out when people are capable of following the rule, they don't. And that's a very fascinating fact about us as human creatures. And really, the psychoanalytic work gets started in this very spot where, although I'm meant to be just speaking my mind, somehow I don't do it. And this is where the work with, analyst and analyst working together really gets started.
Well, we will get, because I'm very interested in talking about the purpose and the utility of the fundamental rule. But first, is the fundamental rule what's more commonly referred to as free association? Are they interchangeable?
Well, pretty closely. I wouldn't say they're exactly interchangeable, but yes, what you are being asked to do is free associate. That's what free association is, just saying out loud, whatever it is that comes into your mind. So yes, they're almost identical. The only difference is the one I was trying to allude to, which is in analysis, the fundamental rule is asking you to do that. It's asking you to free associate, as opposed to just free associating. That's what the structure is. So there's someone in some psychological state may just be saying out loud whatever it is that comes into their mind. It's usually not a very happy place to be. But within analysis, people are trying to do that because they've been asked to do it. I mean, that is a constituting setup of the analytic situation itself.